Hey y'all, maybe it's worth discussing the Etudes by Popper that I went through a bit. So number one, it's one of those moto perpetuo type ones. So in this kind of etude, I didn't do very much rubato, and I think pacing is very important for something like this. You have to find your tempo that works technically, but still you feel can have the character that Popper wanted. I tried to analyze the Italian tempo markings for these, and they're good guides, but eventually I just went with what I just said about balancing technique and stylistic requirements. So the other thing that you can say about number one is there's a lot of interesting string crossing issues. Starting up, as indicated, seems to help with that. And then there's the accents that he periodically uses that I think in a way those notes come out without the accents. And so the accents I found to be just kind of a nice addition to what is naturally in the music. And then as you go further along down the first page, you start to think about optional fingerings, not the Stutch or Popper fingerings, because of those big shifts. If you're trying to have a tempo that is somewhat energetic, right? So what I considered was, what's up, Cody?
I'm just cleaning my room.
So you need to use that?
Yeah.
That's the deal?
Yeah.
Excuse me. Sit down.
Wait, what is that? What's that?
Here, put the computer and open it for me. Can you hold it up?
What are you doing?
I'll tell you when I'm done. Make sure you get that. So that was my original idea, was to add those early shifts up higher on the D string. And what sometimes turns out as I went through these was some of my attempts to improve on the fingerings didn't. And I ended up being better off with those fingerings in the part. I think whoever put those fingerings in had a lot of experience with these pieces, and they were really able to balance those things that I was talking about with the aid of the fingerings too. So, like, there's a simplicity to not doing. If you go without that, something of an interruption there, and then you just have to find that high octave. You do your best, and maybe take a moment. We can talk about how to make shifts if we felt like it, but that's maybe for a different kind of discussion than this. So the rest of it kind of falls into the things I was talking about. It just comes back, everything. Like that was, was that better? I always tell people that it's nice to experiment with fingerings, even if you don't end up really changing them in the end. You somehow learn, and the original fingering ends up being better than it had been. So let's see, the ending. There's nice. It's hard to start there, maybe. It's nice to have performed them. I mean, I haven't performed an etude since I was little. So, but one of the things about performing something is how do you end it so that you feel like you've completed your performance, your rendition of it to some sort of a final sense, the kind of wrapping it up. And I have been inspired by the way Starker ends things sometimes, like Bach movements, with a certain kind of, a certain kind of drama, a certain kind of flourish, or settled sense that may or may not be indicated by the composer, but it gives you that nice feeling of that it's over, and that it's like having a piece of cake at the end of a meal or something. Then you know you're done.